Welcome to the Power of Attunement YouTube channel. My name is Cece. I am your host for today's episode, and I'm just so grateful that you're here. I have a powerful story that I want to share with you, something that happened for me last week that is just moving very deeply with me. And it is my hope that by sharing it, it maybe brings some greater awareness, brings some inspiration, and causes some sort of remembrance of how much we are really loved. So before I get going on the story, I'm going to invite you to like and subscribe if you haven't done that. If it's your first time here, just a big warm welcome to you. So glad that you're here with me today, and may you continue to get inspiration from this channel. So let's get started, okay? So last week, something moved for me that was so powerful, and it really feels as if I've taken an upgrade, you know what I mean? A frequency, something has lifted in me that has actually shifted how I'm moving in my world. And so first I want to give a little background so that this story kind of makes sense. So one, I want to say that all of my life, since I was a little girl, I've always been really attracted to all of those things of the invisible. So we could say paranormal, psychic, mediumship, all of that stuff has always really intrigued me. It may have been born from a story that my mom shared with me often of her near-death experience when she was about 17 years old. And I was just fascinated by that. So I've always really had this high curiosity and this high connection with that realm. And a number of times in my life, when I've come across people who have these sorts of gifts, I have been told that I have a lot of people standing behind me. So beings from the invisible. And to the point where these people who have told me this are kind of surprised when they tell me, it's like, wow, I've never really seen that many people standing behind someone before. And I just kind of took it for like, oh, wow, cool. You know, I've got a lot of people looking out for me in the invisible or something, right? So I just have heard this come across a number of times. But last week, for some reason, and I'll kind of go into what I think the reasons are a little bit later, but last week, this question was really burning for me. This awareness came about this grouping of beings who were in the invisible. And I asked the question to myself, why? Why are these beings hanging out with me? What is this about? And I probably thought that thought before, but for whatever reason, last week, it was really coming up for me and I really needed to know. So what I did is I reached out to a friend of mine who's very gifted in this area. And I texted her. I'm like, hey, you know how you've said that there's all these beings standing behind me? And this question's burning in me. I really need to know why. Why are they with me? What is this about? And her response via text was, oh, hold up. I'm getting a download. We'll have to wait. It's coming through fast, right? And so I had to wait till the next day. So anyway, we had a conversation. And the first thing that she told me really kind of knocked me through a loop. She said, well, what first came through for me was a vision of a little girl, a little tomboy out in the woods. And I'm assuming, and I know that this tomboy was you. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, you were the one that called these beings in. It was like an SOS call. And it had just hit me. Because when I was like 8, 9 years old, I was actually traumatized in the woods by someone who should have been loving and protecting me, but they were not, right? And I know so many people, so many women and men can relate to what it's like to be in that situation when they're kids, right? It's like a feeling of powerlessness. And so, in that feeling of powerlessness, in that moment, the most traumatizing experience of my life, apparently, my higher self, my being, who I truly am, put out an SOS call. And these few dozen, I would say maybe 50 beings answered the call. And when I was talking to my friend, she's like, yeah, they have just chosen to stay with you all of your life. And so there was more in the conversation that I don't really have to share right now. I want to share the most important things. And so, anyway, I walked away from that experience just feeling so blown away, filled with this deep gratitude. I just was so taken aback by the amount of love that was given to me in that moment, the amount of protection. And what happened through the week last week is I began to see my life and to see moments. It was kind of like looking out into a field and to see little bursts of light coming up and memories of like, oh, they came through that in that circumstance and in that circumstance and in that circumstance to provide guidance, to provide protection. And I was just like so filled with love and with gratitude for this reality that I was made aware of. And it was interesting because by the time I received this message from my friend, and by the time I went to bed that night, I was so filled and overflowing with gratitude and love for this knowing that I just fell into tears. I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you for answering the call. And I brought into my awareness that little girl. I was like, just thanking her for the being that she was, that in that moment she could call upon the invisible realm, God, you could say, spirit. So if all we are, if there's only one power, one presence, one being expressing itself as limitless personality and limitless form and limitless angelic presence, this is the divine loving us. It was the divine loving me through these beings of light, through these beings that answered my SOS when I was a little girl. And so what I noticed in myself through these last several days is, for me, like just knowing and receiving this love and knowing that it's there, and feeling this deep gratitude and this deep reciprocal love. So in that time, I've been like really mindful of like thanking this grouping of individuals, this grouping of angels, ancestors, guides. Thank you for answering the call and for always being there and always guiding me and loving me so much. So what's happened for me is I've noticed in my own experience, like just being more loving with relationships that sometimes can be challenging, and just like the mental patterns, I would say, that sometimes block the flow of love in me seem to just be wasted away, right? They were dissolved. And it was just so powerful. And I've come to recognize that, this is, we've heard the commandments that Jesus brought into his ministry of like, loving the divine, loving the Father, loving God with all of your mind, all of your heart, and to love one another. So these were the commandments, but it's like there is this piece of like what happens when we open to the love that is coming to us. So that commandment is about love going out, right? It's about sharing that love, being grateful to the Creator, being grateful to the people around us, and expressing our love. But something really happened for me when I was able to really receive that love. And I think what it took, this was a unique situation, but I've had hints of this kind of thing in my life. And now it's kind of like I know the secret to it is like when I consciously like come into alignment and orient myself to that reality, to the reality of divine being. When I do that and open myself to receive that love and give appreciation and open my eyes to see that I am guided, that I have been protected, that I have been loved all along. And when I allow myself to receive that and feel that and know that in myself, it's a transmuting and transforming power. So as much as giving love and showing love and seeing the love in our life and being grateful for it opens up something. But I think for me, it was like a revelation to open my eyes to see how the invisible, how the universe, how the reality beyond this veil of third dimension, when I open to receive that love and know it and see it and feel it, it's like something even more powerful happens than when I'm, embodying it, right? It was just something so rich and so powerful and so transformative. I really wanted to share that with you and to remind each and every one who is tuned into this to go within, to look at your life, to see, we can see how things have gone wrong, right? But look at the times in your life when maybe some things were really happening that weren't so great to experience. Maybe you yourself have gone through some traumas. Maybe you can look back and you can search for how divine presence showed up for you. It could have showed up like it did for me with support through the angelic or the heavenly realms, so to speak. Maybe you became aware of that at some point, but looking at your life and seeing where you maybe got an intuitive hit to get out of here, run, turn away from this situation, leave this relationship, do this, do that. You know what I mean? We've all gotten those strong nudges, and the reality is this is a higher reality trying to guide us through this human experience. So I would invite you this week to just really meditate upon that. Think about that. Think about the love that is behind you. Whether it shows up like it did for me or not, like having a grouping of people, maybe you're aware of who your spirit guides are. Maybe you're aware of the ancestors that are supporting you from beyond this realm. Maybe you're already aware of that. But if you're not, I'm going to invite you to just kind of open to that. Open to this reality that we are so loved. We are so loved that we get support that we can't see with these eyes. But it comes through us in our intuitive nudges, in feeling comforted in our times of grief, sorrow, and suffering, right? And it's just such a powerful experience that I'm grateful for, and I wanted to bring it today. I hope that for you, you find that moment or those moments when you can see the benefits, the guidance, the grace, those things in your life where something in the invisible was working for you. You may have called it a miracle. You may have called it the grace of God. I don't know. We can call it all kinds of things, but in our hearts, we know when something has happened beyond our own human effort. Do you know what I mean? So that's the invitation this week, to really open to the love that is constantly pouring through the divine. whether it's coming through the invisible realm or even through the people around you. Because the reality is, we are, each and every one of us, a unique individualization of spirit. We are all angelic beings, and we're here having a human experience. And, we need support once in a while. We need to feel and to know that we are backed up by the universe. We are lit up. When we are lit up by love, we have more of that connection available to us, where we can see how the universe is backing us up. So that's what I wanted to share today. It's been a really amazing experience for me this last week, being able to feel this overflow of love just coming through me and transmuting some of my patterns of thinking, transmuting some of my habits, and just feeling the power there. And so attunement is really all about this kind of an experience. Even though this is my unique experience, I know that when we practice orienting to a higher love, when we practice allowing ourselves to come to a surrendered place and to let ourselves be guided and to let ourselves be loved and cared for, not just by the divine, but by the expressions of the divine that are all around us as the people who are in our lives. So just feeling inspired and wanted to share that today. I hope it has been of some use for you, and I look forward to what comes next. So thanks for being here today. Much love to you. May you know how much you are loved by the divine. May you know that everything around you is the divine, individualized, expressing as all forms of life. And may you be lifted up. May you be overflowing with the power of love and bring it to your world. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. We'll see you next time.